education is going to be my hustle.
Yeah, they said not guilty.
I look forward to seeing you every day. You lift my heart when you come into the classroom.
I don't believe you should chase a thing because that means that it's running away from you. So the more value you add to yourself, the less you find yourself chasing other things.
The next time you acting out, the next time you get upset, remember that you raised your hand and said, you know what, one day I want to buy my mama a house.
It's your life. You have a history. It's yours. Protect it.
Oakland, California, the home of Kipp Bridge Academy and the heart of a community of underserved students. With the challenges of today, a textbook alone can't open up the minds of the youth. They need more from their communities and more from their schools. Introducing Bridging the Gap, a series that connects young students with positive examples of what they can be in life. We facilitate face-to-face interaction with students and success stories who once were in their same shoes. To help students relate to their teachers on a deeper, more meaningful level. To show students how excelling in school can lead to excelling outside of it. And to give students the right keys to change their whole paradigm and way of thinking. This is Bridging the Gap, right now.
I'm Jada.
I'm Jelani.
And we are Bridging the Gap. Here are our guests, Mr. Brown, 19 Keys, and Charles Cole III.
Hey, can you guys tell us more about yourself?
Okay, I'll start off. My name is Herman Brown, and I'm a school teacher here. I've been a teacher in Oakland for 41 years. I'm a native son of West Oakland. I graduated from a great West Oakland High School in 1969, McClymonds High School. I went to college at St. Mary's College on a basketball scholarship. During that time, that was the late 60s and early 70s, and there was a strong black power movement in the country and a resistance against unjustified Vietnam War. Mr. Brown was a part of that coming up, and it conditioned my mind to have one purpose, which was to graduate from college and go back to West Oakland and tell young people about the realities of the country that they live in, how they can be victimized by this system and just destroyed. That's why I've been doing this for 41 years, to give y'all that message.
I go by 19 Keys. I'm a thought leader, influencer, author, writer, entrepreneur, many different titles, world traveler. I really consider myself a world changer because if you want to change the world, you have to change people's minds. And what I help do is elevate people's mind to the proper status to where they can become successful, to where things like what my good brother was talking about, systems of oppression, can no longer drown you down when you become in tune with your genius. And I ask people all the time, if you were dealing with a racist cop and in the scenario, there's Einstein in the car, there's some particular genius that you know about, who would you want to be in that situation? And 9 out of 10 people are going to say the genius because, you know, innately we recognize genius as being a superpower, you know, because you'll be able to think your way out of any situation regardless if someone is against you. And so what I like to do is help people tap into their genius, help unlock their mind. And without going any further, because they might have more questions, but I just consider myself a person who's on a journey in life that changes the world. I don't like to really qualify too many titles because I think more so, you know, life is just about the journey of being yourself and tapping into whatever talents and characteristics that you have and using that to influence the world for the better and also produce a world for yourself, which it could be making money, making friends, developing the greatest relationships in life, whatever it is. So I'm just a person who uses their talents to change the world.
My name is Charles Cole III. I was born in Chicago and grew up in between Chicago and Kentucky until my grandmother passed away. That was the woman who was taking care of me, and then I made my way here. I went to this school. It was Lafayette at the time, and then I went to Westlake, and that guy, Mr. Brown, was my teacher. Changed my life. I was a knucklehead. I was homeless at the time. I had this super thick accent from Chicago and Kentucky. I was mad because my parents was on drugs and in and out of jail and all that stuff. And one day he told me I was being a jerk. He used other language, but it was, I don't know who's watching it. But he stayed on me every day after school, before school. He knew I liked basketball. And I ended up having one of the highest grades in this class, and I went on to be a scholar after that. I went to undergrad. You know what undergrad means? So when you enter college to get your bachelor's degree, I did that at Cal State Hayward, which is now East Bay. I got my master's in public administration from San Francisco State, and my doctorate is from San Francisco State, which I'm finishing up in the next few months. I run an organization called Energy Converters, which I proudly wear on my chest. And basically what Energy Converters means is energy isn't good or bad until we give it a value. So all those things, me living all across the country, me being homeless and all those things, you can look at those things as an excuse or being negative. But I actually look at those things as being really positive pieces of energy that I've been able to use because it ain't nobody else that's built like me, right? And so that's why I built this organization that would listen to voices like you all and make sure that we can give Oakland the type of education that it needs. So thank you all so much for having me here, and I'm ready for the rest of these questions.
So here at Kipp Bridge, we're all about education. So how did your education influence you when you were younger?
The education part, with just base academics, you learn how to read, write, and communicate, is enough for all of us, all of you, to be able to take that knowledge that you have to intake information, process that information, analyze it, and then project it in some type of form or fashion that's going to be productive to you and to your loved ones and in your community. Myself personally, what affected my life is Brother Cole said that I influenced him. I am nothing more but a direct passenger of the message that came to me. When I was your age, the most dynamic black revolutionary that ever existed came on the scene, who was Malcolm X. He was the messenger that turned my life around and gave me the information, knowledge about my past history and where I was in the present in this white supremacist country that had established itself as dominating the whole world and causing people of color to be relegated to submission. I wasn't having that, thanks to Malcolm X for lifting my consciousness. And from that point on, that was my whole purpose in life, was to continue giving that message. Fortunately, I was able to meet Mr. Cole when he came into my classroom, and when he was a young man, I remember him very well, just like all of you, and I talked to you all the same message that I gave to him. I saw great potential in this brother when he was a young man, because he was a real man when he was already, 12 or 13 years old. And I knew what my job was, to carry that message that Malcolm gave to me. Instilling young people, it's your life. You have a history. It's yours. Protect it. Don't let anybody take it away from you, and keep pursuing that goal as you move forward.
How did education influence me when I was younger? It's many different layers to that right there. You know, I consider all education really self-knowledge, you know. And for me, when I think education, I don't really think of it just in the context of school, but just learning itself. And I've always been the type of person who've been able to learn not only from my mistakes, but from other mistakes, other people's mistakes. And it allowed me to go further at a younger age to be able to skip past certain hurdles that I would have had to go through if I had to make those mistakes myself. So whether it's I learning from my older brother or just learning from older people and things of that nature, period. But when I was younger, my parents instilled a very real concept in me. And at a very young age, much younger than you all, they said that I'm a god. That was one thing that they told me. And as I was young, I didn't understand what they meant. You know, I took it more so as an ego or whatever. I thought they was telling me that I'm bulletproof, I'm impenetrable, whatever that meant. But as I got older, I understood it more to have a protocol, meaning a procedure for me to actually qualify and call myself that thing. Because it was more so getting in tap to that inner God within. And so as I went on a journey, I realized that in order for me to qualify that statement, I would have to get knowledge. More specifically, knowledge of self. Because the only real knowledge you can get is knowledge of self. Because it's the knowledge you have experience with. And there's a difference, right? Because a lot of people take information, but they never get knowledge. And information without experience, to me, this is how I define it, never converts to real knowledge. Meaning something that you know. Because you can pick that from your experience, which means I can teach it. So how old are you?
12.
So you're 12 years old, right? So if somebody is 11, you can teach them how about your experience of being a 12-year-old. Meaning that you can tell them about it because you went through it, you reached that. But let's say if you read a book on being 20 years old. Now, you can take that book and you can take that information and you can tell it to somebody else, but it's not real knowledge for you because you don't know it because you never experienced it. But you can still give a person that information. So for me, I've always been on this point of how do I convert this information into experience? And then how do I take that experience and convert it into knowledge of self? So I've always been on this journey of learning myself so that it teaches me more about the world around me, everything around me. The more I know you, the more I know me, the more I can know you, because now I know how I'm reacting to you. Now I know how I'm judging you. Now I know all of these different programmings. Like my good brother talked about Malcolm X, he knows that if he views things, he may look at it from the lens of the information that he got from Malcolm X. But since he has self-knowledge, he knows that, okay, the reason I'm looking at it this way is because I was educated by that information when I was younger. I took that information, converted into experience, passed it on to the next person, you know, and more of that was teaching me about myself as I was going through that process. And I break all of this down for the purpose of I want people to completely get into the thought process of not thinking that education is only in the context of a classroom, you know, or in the context of getting a certificate or a degree, because every day in life you're supposed to graduate. And so for me, when I was younger, I think the greatest thing that I was ever educated on was self-knowledge. My parents told me that go on that journey of learning self, and it took me a very long time to understand that, or even to understand why knowledge was power in the first place. But I would say that the one time I educated myself and I realized it was power is when I was 19 years old. I had a case. I was fighting a trial. And as I was fighting this case, I remember they locked me up. They threw me in jail for a month. I was like in Ohio somewhere as I was traveling, working for this magazine company. And they locked me up and they threw me in jail. And they came and picked me up finally, extradited, which means they take you from one state to another to stand trial. So they had me wheeled through the airport and shackles on my feet and my hands. It was the most embarrassing experience on planet Earth. And then they took me into the airplane. I remember getting in, everybody giving me all these different looks. I had to sit in the back. And I remember going through this experience, you know, thinking about, damn, just a month ago I was free and I was able to live. And I remember, you know, finally fast forward and going to trial, and my older brother gave me a list of different books that I should read, you know. And it was more so I can learn what I was going through, learn my environment. He was giving me information on my situation so I can take that experience and use it strategically so I can win my freedom. So there was points that I was learning things that I had to teach my lawyer, not teach my lawyer, but tell my lawyer, like, Lil, I need you to do this appeal, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, because he was lazy. Big guy didn't really want to do any work, and he ain't really had won any cases before that. So I had to take this information that I was learning and apply it. And fast forward, just to make the long story short, they came to that point where they was like, they called my name, and it was like Jabril Muhammad, and there was a silent pause. My heart was about to drop. Yeah, they said not guilty. And ever since that day going forward, I realized why knowledge was power. And for me, and I'm not knocking for anybody who do read things that just have stories in them, but I read only things that I can apply in real life. And because I always want to take the information and apply it so I can have that knowledge, which is power. And I believe that every time I do that, I grow a little more. And so, you know, that was probably the most pivotal point in my life when I educated myself on something, because I used knowledge to gain my freedom.
I was really angry when I was young. I didn't feel like things were fair. You know, I was the oldest. I'm 6 and 8 years older than my brother and sister, so I had to take care of them. And so I looked at, like, everybody and all the men in my family at the time, in and out of jail, sold drugs, and I just wasn't built like that. It just wasn't who I was, and a lot of my friends ended up doing that. So I looked at what was kind of going on around me, and I was just like, well, what didn't my parents do that I can do that might be different? And somewhere, whether it was the truth or a lie, I believed the lie. I said that, well, school is going to be the thing that gets me out. It was going to either be basketball or school. And so I played ball, and ball took me to a lot of places. I knew I wasn't going to be much taller than 6 foot. I was a decent ball player, but I knew that a lot of people around me didn't care about education. And there's always been this story around, if you're in the woods and you're getting chased by a bear and there's people with you, you ain't got to outrun the bear. You just got to outrun the people around you. And that sounds really mean when I think about it. But as far as what my survival was, you got to understand, I would go home from this school and I would like be sleeping in a room with 60 other people, right, on a bunk bed, right? So I said, well, education is going to be my hustle. I'm going to dedicate myself to this the way a rapper dedicates himself to rapping, a ball player dedicates himself to working out. And that's the lie I told myself. And then I've just been trying to find ways to transport that. So, for instance, and I'm gonna keep it real with you. I went to Emory High School. I graduated at the top of my class, and when I got to college, I still wasn't prepared. I still was remedial everything. But it's not. This is what I would say to you. When people hear I got a doctorate or I'm working on that stuff or whatever, they automatically think you super smart and genius, and I think everybody's a genius. But let's throw that word out. It's not that I'm any different, right? It's just that school ain't about really how smart you are, especially in that college level. It's about if you keep going, and if you keep coming back, right? And so I just knew that I was going to outwork the people around me. I don't control how I look. I don't control how much money I had. I don't control how cute I am. Somebody always gonna be faster. Somebody gonna always be tougher. Somebody's gonna always be stronger. But the one thing that I've always controlled is how hard I work. And if I can outwork you and the people around me, then things have usually fell in my favor. Not all the time, but it built up the resilience to kind of build the type of life that I said that I wanted for myself. And so I wear these I always got 2 rubber bands on for my little brother and sister. I've worn 2 rubber bands since I was 10 years old. I saw Charles Barkley do it. Y'all know who Charles Barkley is? Yeah, he was a beast at the time, and but he always had these rubber bands on. And what it was is it was to keep himself disciplined. He pop himself when you make a mistake. So when I was in college and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm frustrated and I want to be out because it's college and it's girls and stuff and I don't live with my parents, I would look at these rubber bands and they would remind me of the shelter. They remind me of my little brother and sister. I can remember what that shelter smells like today. And then studying became the easiest thing in my life. So when you ask me how the education impacted me early on, it was my ticket to a life that I wanted. Because it's a difference between having to live in Oakland and choosing to live in Oakland. When I was a kid, I had to live in Oakland. And Oakland was very different. It was a bit more dangerous. Even in my middle school, it was a lot more things happening. There was a lot of fights at our school. There was like these Mexican black wars that used to happen. It was some wild stuff. Now as an adult, I choose to live here, and it's a very different experience for me. And so that's how it impacted me early, is that I was able to look at like the bigger picture down the line.
I have a specific question for you. Why do you call yourself 19 Keys?
It's a question that can go in depth, and then there's a basic answer. So the number 19 is the smallest number that represents all numbers. Number 1 being the smallest single-digit number, and number 9 being the highest single-digit number. And so if you listen to anytime I break down information, I can start on sort of like a wild tangent, then I bring it together in the end. And I do that for many different reasons, right? Somebody who is, let's say, have a very high level of knowledge in a specific subject, I can break something down to them. Well, I actually probably wouldn't have to break it down at all. They'll be able to understand it very easily. Somebody who doesn't have a lot of knowledge in that subject, I might have to break it down, down to that one basic understanding so that they can get the concept of what I mean. So if you're following, the number 1 is more so basic knowledge. And then the number 9 to me is higher knowledge. And then I make sure that I don't ever want anybody in the room to miss out on the key that I'm trying to give them. So instead of me getting it at my level, I want to make sure I get it at everybody's level here. So I'm going to explain it to the most basic way. I'm going to explain it in the most advanced way. And to me, that represents that 1 through 9, making sure I get the full length of information out. So one person was like, oh, I understand exactly what he meant when he first started talking. The other person's like, no, I needed that further explanation and breakdown. And I believe people's level of understanding and comprehension is in between that 1 through 9. And even when you add up 1 through 9, you get 10, which means you also get that 0 in there, and then that 10 backs down to 1. So it's more so getting you to a comprehensive rhythm of understanding. But it also represents, the 9, and the 1 represents the mind itself, the conscious mind. The conscious mind is where you make your conscious decisions from, those thoughts that spiral up, and then you have your subconscious mind where your habits come from. And so psychologists have broken down and said that the mind can be broken into 2 different sexes. The subconscious mind represents the gender mind of the female, the more emotion-based, and the conscious mind more so represent logic, reason. And so for me, I'm always looking to see how people's minds are lined up. For a young man, you would have to, because men have, feminine and masculine qualities about themselves. But the average male doesn't study the feminine aspect about themselves, so it doesn't always allow them to think logical above emotions. And it's the same thing with women. So the information and the knowledge that I teach people is so that you will have a qualifying conscious understanding of your subconscious mind, meaning that you will learn how to program yourself. You know what I mean? You understand from when am I speaking from the conscious area of my brain and when am I being programmed or impression from my emotional side. And so it's more so giving people a reinforcing understanding of having a superior mindset. So when I break things down from my 19 keys, I can go break it all the way down to the atom. Let's say if I want to talk about marketing. And marketing today is all about attention. Everybody is trying to get your attention. Everybody, whether it's on your phone, whether it's through billboards, whatever it may be. And physicists have found that the atom, when you observe it, it changes. Y'all know what an atom is, right? So when you observe an atom, it changes, And the way I look at that, because everything is connected in our world, right? All of us are made of atoms. So if you all are looking at me right now, I'm absorbing your energy. I might change a little bit because I'm getting you, the observer, the one who's looking at me, is pouring energy into me at the same time. If a business doesn't have any energy, then it fails, or it doesn't have any busyness, or it doesn't have any attention, then it fails. So people every day are trying to get your attention. So when I look at an atom, I'm thinking about your thoughts, right? So I have a thought in the darkness of my mind, that conscious area in my mind, some vision that I want to bring into fruition. But I consider that more so like your mind being pregnant, right? So you got your conscious mind comes up with this idea, but it's not until it's in the darkness of your mind, and then you have to supplant that into your subconscious mind, right? So I got a dream, but it's not until I work that it starts to produce energy towards that dream, and then it gets brought out into reality. Now, y'all got to follow with me here. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to break it real simple when we get down to it, right? Yeah. Lil' bruh got it. Pay attention here. Because sometimes I don't always want you to look for simple things. I want you to be able to understand complex systems of knowledge. So it can be very hard for a person to sit there and try to learn something new because their brain don't have any way to even interpret this. Like, what the hell is he even talking about? But the point for you is to try to figure out what point do I know in this and what point even makes sense for me. Because I might be saying this and I might understand it completely, but it's not for me, it's for you. You're supposed to get the information. So at no point in time is you supposed to just give up like I don't get it, so let me just not pay attention. Because you lose in that scenario, not me. Because I already understand the information. So if you want to grow after this, you got to figure out what part of the information can I understand and what can I take with me. So like I was saying, before this phone was created, it was just a thought in somebody's head, But it's not enough to have an idea and if you don't put no work behind it. It has to be worked in the womb. And then as it's going, it's starting to grow. And I look at that as the ideas that some of you all may have. As you go through life in the future, you may have an idea, but you have to allow it to grow. You have to nurture that idea. And sometimes your mind is pregnant with these ideas, but you don't know how to birth it into reality. You may want to get better grades. You may want to later in life change jobs or start a business. But it's not until you learn how to nurture your ideas to bring them into existence that they will actually come into fruition. So when you're pregnant with these thoughts, you have to learn how to put work into it. And then as you work it, you have to learn how to not quit, because the most painful part of the process in birth is when the woman starts having the contractions, right? It's let her body know that it's time for her to push the baby out. This idea, like, okay, you got your business plan, you done did this, you did all of this, but now you got that next step you got to go through. But it's that pain. It's real painful, right? But she has to continue to concentrate that passion in order to manifest, in order to birth. So as she go through that one qualifying day that she got pregnant, and this is the day that your idea comes into your mind, and then you work it through those 9 months, but then you have to continuously push it, those points where you want to give up. You know, you continuously pushing past the pain of procrastination. You continuously pushing past the pain of your friends saying, that's a dumb idea. You're not listening to none of that. You keep going, and then eventually you bring your idea to life. It comes to the light. But remember, it started in the darkness of your mind. You know, and so once you get to that point where you learn how to always produce ideas from things that's in your mind, because before I started 19 Keys, it was just a thought in my mind, but I said I want this to be known internationally around the world. I left Oakland at the start of this year, and I told some of my friends here, I told them that I want to leave here, and then I want it to be known around the world, and then I want people to be able to value me when I come back here, because I didn't feel like I got the value, because sometimes people so close to you, they can't see your value. People too close to the light, they get blinded by it. So I had the idea in my head, but it didn't matter. You know what I mean? I think I about went through 9 months of putting the value into it, traveling all around the world, getting people to understand that these 19 keys are all about manifesting your greatest self. You taking that idea about who you believe that you are and putting in that work to birth the whole brand new self into reality so that people can see you. But it's not enough for you to produce an idea. If they just produce the phone and they didn't put no great marketing plans behind it, then they're not taking care of their baby when it comes into life. So once you get an idea and you produce it, you have to take care of your child. You know, and then nobody's child become great in the first year. Nobody has a legendary son at year 1 and everybody remembered them for all throughout time. If Malcolm X died as a young boy, nobody would have known that he would have become a great man. So it's not until you take care of that child for a long period of time. In business, they say businesses don't really become truly successful until like 10 years in business. So the point of all of this is once you get to that point and you can hear yourself and you hear an idea in your head, you have to realize that nothing is impossible. When the universe was created from what they call the Big Bang, they say it was one single thing that created the rest of the world. You know what I mean? But it was one particular movement, and they said before that, nothing existed. And they say the only thing that human beings can't comprehend and understand is where nothing comes from. But we have a theory on where everything else comes from, which is motion. So once you put yourself in motion, it reverberates, right, throughout time, meaning that time starts when motion starts. So once you have a conscious idea and you start to work it, you start to produce yourself. You start to produce that idea to have a trickle effect. So from that one particular moment in time in history to where they say the Big Bang started, everything flew into the universe. I ain't going to break it down and I ain't going to tell you whether I believe it's true. But the concept of having one thought and being able to produce a million other thoughts is very powerful. There was anybody know who Mr. Farrakhan is? He had a Million Man March, right? So from that idea, he had one single thought that I want to be able to call a million man here and to create a movement of atonement. And from that single idea, I don't know if he was asleep or he had a dream or wherever it may came up. It did not matter if he didn't put work into the plan. So your logical brain comes up with the idea, right? But it's not until you work that plan that you can actually push it and bring it into existence. So now after all of that talking, you know what I mean? I'm going to give you one more concept of understanding the 19 keys. I was impressioned with an idea when I was very young that they said there was 17 million black people and 2 million Indians in the time. It was like in the 1930s. And it was from a man named Masfar Muhammad. And he said that means there's 19 million rusty locks. And he was talking about their minds. And he said that in order to unlock these people, you need 19 million keys. He was talking about giving them enlightenment, giving them knowledge itself. And so for me, the 19 keys represents the knowledge that I can give to you to get to your greatest self, the knowledge I can give to you to get to your greatest self, the knowledge I can give to you to give to your greatest self. The key can be knowledge, the key can be energy, but in order for you to have a positive thought, you know you're tired and sometimes you're negative, you wake up tired and you don't feel like talking to nobody. That's because you don't have enough energy in the mind to even produce a positive thought. So what I like to do is give people energy so that they can think their highest thoughts, so they can even think of themselves their highest ways possible. If you all are tired in here and you're trying to listen, you're not going to take the full information because you don't have enough energy inside to even gather it. So for me, it's all about giving people the keys to change their pattern of thinking, giving people the keys to change their life, giving people the keys to unlock their potential. And then the more knowledge that I give to you, you become a key, meaning that you can give it to him. But he might not have the key in his life. He might not have a family member that's telling him how to unlock his potential, how to be a better man, how to be a better woman, telling him an idea on how to produce it into reality. So I want to give you the knowledge, because if you give it to another person, they can give it to another person. So 1 becomes 10, 10 becomes 100, 100 becomes 1,000. So for me, the 19 keys represent me understanding everything from the smallest point into the highest point of origin, and then being able to take that information and help other people change their pattern of thinking. So I consider myself a polymath, a person who learns universal knowledge to solve specific problems. And the specific problems that I've decided to focus my life on is the plight of black and brown people, and specifically not knowing their potential and how to bring it out into existence. So the 19 keys can go a little deeper than that, but I think I kind of gave you all maybe too much or not enough. But the lastly I want to say is that when you're listening to somebody speak, not everything goes stick, right? So when you listen, the only thing that you're going to keep really is what you understand, but also what allows you to make better decisions in life. So you may have listened and you be like, damn, something about that I like. But then a person might be like, tell me exactly what he said. You're not going to be able to tell them verbatim and repeat it all. But that's why it's important for you all to sit there and take notes, because you can always go back and then it allows you to understand it a little more the more you go over it. So if I told this story 10 times, the first time you might get 10%. The second time you might get 20% of it. Third time you might get 40%, up until you understand 100% of it. And that's what people call changing your paradigm, changing your habits, changing your level of understanding, changing your pattern of thinking. So anytime you sitting down and you getting information that's hard to digest, I want you to force yourself to understand it. Because that means that past that pain, you get to birth yourself a whole new mind. And you get to understand something completely different. Then you get to become a key to the next person. Instead of having all these rusty locks around you, all of you all can be keys for the world. That was long-winded. I talk a lot.
I have a question for all you guys. How does education affect your life today?
Okay, what it has done, it has empowered me to be able to defend myself against what I know and who I know is an entity, as the brother said earlier, of taking we as black and brown people and enslaving us mentally. It's like we are no longer persons or peoples who are in involuntary slavery, that somebody can impose slavery on you. And for me, having the knowledge of that history of what took place for my ancestors and saying that's not going to be in my life. And like the brother said, I did a lot of self-education, not so much I was taught in the classroom, because a lot of what you get in the classroom is not true. Especially when I was coming up, it was nothing but deception and deceit to get you to believe a certain way. So we have to distinguish the message with the messenger. So what is the message? How can you understand the message? And I'm hearing the brother saying the same thing. We're all saying the same thing because we're all on the same spiritual plane. And that's what we are. We are here to elevate you to that same level of your thinking. So if you have this knowledge, which is the education about self, and that's where I'm going back to, on my education of self, like I heard the brother say, you have to know who you are, where you came from, to understand where you are right now. And then when that happens, you can dictate where you are going. And the message that you receive is something that you could take in as your education. Now, if you listen to a negative message, you are being educated negatively. And I watch so many of you, and I say it all the time, how are you carrying yourself? What are you doing? What are you thinking about? See, you believe in a negative message. And when the positive message comes to you, you resist that. But over time, if you continue to internalize, and I like what the brother said, it's a process that it has to come into your mind that you're getting this message now that's contradicting a so-called message that you believe in. And I'm gonna make Imaje a case in point. In my classroom, I'm so proud of you on how you have matured and developed from last year in the classroom and watching her now. This is the young lady who I used to tell her all the time. I knew she was going to be a powerful soul black sister in the community and just contribute and give all that love, all that woman, that female, beautiful mother type love that's coming from her. I'm just so proud of you because you are processing a different message. You're separating yourself away from negativity that surrounds us all the time. You two right here sitting on here, it's an honor to be up here with these brothers, but it's also a greater honor to be on this same platform with the two of you. Because I will acknowledge to you, you are a tremendous young man in the classroom. You have honor, you have respect for your family or where you come from, and you project that. I look forward to seeing you every day. You lift my heart when you come into the classroom. The same thing with you, Jada. You have the same projection as you come into the classroom. You guys are wonderful, beautiful black people. You carry the essence of our ancestry of high wisdom and knowledge and love. And at the same time, we are always surrounded. And you all know it's the truth. We are surrounded by so many of us who are in the darkness. How many times do they destroy lessons in the classroom? I say every day, because they're listening to a negative message and they're believing in the negative message. Now, you guys have an opportunity here, not just to hear this from me, but from these other two wonderful brothers. And we're talking about taking that knowledge and passing it on. It's the seed comes into you. Investigate, get that knowledge of self. Go beyond what's in the classroom. Investigate where information is coming from and distinguish the message from the messenger. Because what I have witnessed, you all, in my life as being a classroom teacher and watching generations of young people, and from my era, when it was black and proud, power to the people, power to the vanguard. That's why you hear me say it all the time. There were times we had what was known as Black Family Days, where we would come together and celebrate each other. Black and brown people were together. We were as one because we were fighting a common oppressor together. There was a oneness of us. There was a peace in the land. And then it changed because the messenger came to us, who was us, to give us the negative message. So you got to remember, distinguish yourself as a person who is aware of what is the message, not the messenger. Because I've watched young kids your age when rap music, gangster rap music started, and I sat and watched my students fall into that trap of dancing into a mindset to go to prison, to not accept knowledge. It used to be a statement, Jaylani, that kids would say, and somebody did something, that's stupid, that's stupid. That stupid meant that's good. So everybody's process, oh, I'm gonna be stupid, I'm gonna be stupid. And then you have a behavior that is stupid, and then you stop learning. Now I'm gonna stop this and pass it on, because all of us can speak up here. See, we'll go on and on and on, see, because we are all teachers, and that's what teachers do. But here's a message. I'm gonna give you some history. Because like the brother said, you can read something, you can read about it, but it doesn't tell you anything. Somebody can write a history, but I'm not gonna give you something that was written, and you take my word and listen. This is a fact of my experiences of watching it. Because once upon a time, as a people of color, as black people, we had pride and dignity. We were fighting against all those years of slavery and being second-class citizens. That was a day-to-day fight to get it where you guys have the opportunities that you do now. We had a Black Panther Party that was controlling and took pride in our neighborhood and stopped the police from coming knocking people upside their head, ran the prostitutes off the streets and the drug dealers off the street. We had a dignified culture in the community, and we were moving forward. We were going into movies. We were on the screen. Before, if you were a black person in Hollywood, you was a butler, or you were a maid, or a janitor. Those are all the projections we saw. We had a hero, and I'm gonna make it quick, and you guys think about it and analyze it. In 1972, there was a movie called Shaft. Now check it out, because I'm talking some deep stuff to you. I'm not talking about the one you just saw. with Samuel Jackson. It was won in 1972. It was the apex of our black cultural identity. John Shaft was our superhero. Richard Roundtree, I think that was his name, was the star. And everybody was wearing their afros and their leather jackets and their dashikis. And down on Broadway, there was a little movie theater called the Lux. The Goodwill is there now. You go downtown, you see where the Goodwill is, that was a movie theater. Broadway was full of movie theaters like that once upon a time. All black people used to go to the Luxors. They would show 3 movies. And all you had to pay was like 75 cents. And it was a wonderful experience. Not going to ever happen again, because as a black culture, we would go watch movies and communicate with the movie. People was cracking jokes, making comments, and so forth. It was a wonderful bonding event. And that was the time. Now, this is what the mastermind, controller of minds, did. I'm talking about the message. If you see images and you hear words, it will cause you to accept that, because that is talking about I'm taking in information. If you don't process it, you are reactionary. Don't be a reactionary, be a revolutionary. Listen to it. Those are not my words, those are Malcolm's words. And I took that with me. Now check it out, you guys. Because it's not too many people around that were there at my time. You know, a lot of people gone, or they just wasn't there. The movie makers made this film called Superfly. Check it out. First, John Shaft. John Shaft, powerful black brother, defending the community. Next thing Hollywood says, oh no, we can't have this. White supremacy said, no, we can't have this. These people are together. They are as one. They have a hero. So they created an anti-hero. Here comes Superfly, the return of the pimp, the return of the drug dealer. I'm sitting in that theater. I'm a junior in college. I went to check it out to see it. There was a song in there, and you guys can get the soundtrack. And I regret that Curtis Mayfield recorded it, but for whatever reasons, a lot of people didn't take it for what it was supposed to be. And this is what I saw young kids your age took a message that went like this. I'm your mama, I'm your daddy. I'm that pusher in the alley. I'm your pusher, man. It was no longer power to the vanguard. It's I'm your pusher, man. In the black community, there was no cocaine. That's a rich man's drug. It was smoking weed, and the worst thing you could do was shoot heroin in your arm. But basically, it was weed. It wasn't any cocaine. After that movie was over, the CIA manifested a way to have cocaine accessible in the black community. It was a setup. And so here's a message coming from a black person to black people. That's why I say you got to distinguish the message from the messenger. And when you listen to those rap songs, now check this out, gangsta rap, that's your music. That's your time. But you better listen to the message. Dick Gregory, I don't know if you all know him, but he is a great man. May he rest in peace on information. Now check this out. Hip-hop culture, rap music, is the only cultural music in the world that degrades its women. No other music does that. That music does. Those guys call you a B, a H, and everything else they can think of. Young women start seeing themselves that way, and you act that way. Young boys project towards their women of their race that way by putting them down. The only culture in the world that does that. Now you think about, where did that come from? When I was your age, we used to sing to our girls, my girl. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day with my girl. The girl's all right with me, because you know the girl's all right. We had songs like that. You guys hear them, The Temptations, Smokey Robinson. It was a wonderful time of love and respect. But you guys live in a reality now where you get messages that's going to turn you back into a slave. Not involuntary slavery, but voluntary slavery. That's why I say to you all, when you come into the classroom and you act a fool, you act a fool. And there's some of you in here sitting in front of me now, you are participating in voluntary slavery. There's people that's not in even my grade, they come in my room on these tickets out of the classroom. Go write a reflection. You can't sit in the classroom because you got a mindset with a negative position on who you are and where you are. I can't sit in the classroom and act civilized. I got to do something and be sent out. And then you come out of the room walking all crazy like you cool and all of that, like that's the thing to do. Why, you the biggest fool walking. And it's going to take you guys that's in here like you two and you and you and you. I know you guys from last year. You have to send that message to your peers. We've done it. We're passing it to you. That's that knowledge, and that education is power. Knowledge of self. The brothers say, know yourself. Knowledge is power, and it'll set you free. My brother.
Okay, so we have this last question. In middle school, there was a lot of anxiety around school dances. Be honest, who was your middle school crush, and how did you get to bridge that? How did you bridge that confidence to daily life to go after what you want in life, to get over barriers in life?
Wait, what?
Brother Cole.
Well, whoever dating in middle school, I want to answer the question about what my education is now, but it's fine. Honestly, I don't even remember. I loved basketball. I mean, middle school, you know, you bridging from elementary school to high school. I'm sure it was a lot of girls that I liked. I think that your culture, your generation is the most anxious one out of all of them because you have access to phones and internet all day. And like when I wanted to look up something before, I had to go, like the rich kids had this thing called Encyclopedia Britannica, and the school would have one copy, but that was the Google at that time. So now y'all you get all this rush when people like or don't like something. Like you got access to stuff in ways that we never did. So studies are showing that y'all are the most like anxious people that deal with depression more so than we ever have in society at all. I think that one way that I've dealt with anxiety and depression and to overcome, I know you wanted to know about what girl I had a crush on. I don't know, but I think that one thing is to remember that there's more people in the world than you. Do you know what narcissism is? Yeah, so narcissism, thank you. So narcissism is like where you feel like you are like the center of the universe. So everything that happens affects you. And when you can kind of realize, you know what, on the sand, I'm one little bitty like piece of sand out of the whole thing, you know, that can kind of calm that down. I think the other thing is I think you should really focus on setting goals. What's your ultimate goal? And I'm gonna cheat a little bit, okay? I'm not gonna go as long, I promise you. I'm gonna end it on this. To tie it back into the last question, when you asked about anxiety and you asked how I'm using my education today, raise your hand if you love your mom and one day you wanna buy her a house. Everybody look around. So this year, I was able to take my mom and my dad, who are now clean and been clean and sober for over 20 years. I was able to take them to the Bahamas and buy them a place to vacation in the Bahamas and help them buy a house back in the Midwest, right? Like when we talk about, so without my education putting me in that type of position, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But also, if I would have let the anxiety, the depression, the doubt, the things in my community, the things around me that was telling me I wasn't worthy, that was telling me that I didn't deserve this, that was telling me because I was black, I was supposed to sell drugs or beat on a woman or do this or go to jail. If I listened and succumbed to those things and didn't keep my mind focused, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish that goal. The next time you acting out, the next time you get upset, the next time you feel lazy, the next time that you don't want to be in that class and you know you're not doing what you're supposed to do, remember that you raised your hand and said, you know what, one day I want to buy my mama a house. And really focusing on your goals. you know, I did mine through school. This brother sounded like he did his through entrepreneurship and knowledge of self. Mr. Brown has been an educator for a long time in his community. He's watched this community change. I grew up in that crack era that he was describing, and I saw that it didn't care about none of us. It ravaged families. I would come to school here, and it'd be a zombie line of dope fiends outside, because that's just what the time was, right? Like, you live in a really good time, a really blessed time, but it's trying you in a different way. You have different things that you facing than what we faced. And I will never, ever go against my good brother, Mr. Brown. I owe that dude my life. I don't feel the same way about hip hop. Hip hop has been a part of me. I'm a part of that generation. And I as somebody who lived in the country music got some stuff where they degrading women and people getting killed in there too. Heavy metal, death metal has some stuff that was, you know, but I get the sentiment of what he is saying around what you allow to enter into your space, into your sphere. But I did have to go through a process, and I think that these brothers alluded to it, but they use different words. I had to go through a process where I learned how to love myself, and I learned how to let go of the things that I've done negative. Like, I've not always done the right thing either, and there's a lot of guilt around that. Like, a lot of my friends that I grew up with, my friend DeMarcus and Travis that I had when I was with Mr. Brown, you know, DeMarcus got killed the year after we graduated from Westlake. Like, I lost a lot of friends in this piece, right? And you can feel guilty when I got friends that's in jail, and I'm not going to jail to visit nobody. I'm just not. Like, I visited my dad in jail, and I just said I'm just not going back to that place. But what they were talking about was understanding what you allow to be into your sphere. Figure out what you want to focus on, and you control how hard you work. And I'm not going to drone on it, but hopefully that makes sense. Was that clear of what I'm saying? Okay, thank you. That means that you agree. That's what's up. All right, so, but I appreciate you all having me in.
For me, the way I define confidence is the ability to hold on to truth. And by that statement, this is what I mean. I remember when I was younger, my brother gave me an ultimatum. It was when I was real shy. I didn't feel like, it was real shy, and I was like probably in middle school at the time. And I didn't know how to talk to girls, things of that nature, right? So I remember we was at the movie theater, and he said, look, you either go over there and you talk to her, or I'm going to punch you, or she going to slap you, or something like that. And so I thought in my mind, I said, I definitely don't want to get hit by him, you know what I mean? And I would rather, you know, her slap me. But then I thought in my mind, my rational mind was like, okay, she's not crazy. She's not going to slap me for asking for the number. So I was able to rationalize the situation, and I say, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I'd rather take, you know, the lesser of the two evils. So I remember walking up to her, you know, and I was like, it was real simple. I said, how you doing? Can I get your number? And she automatically said, yeah. And then right there in that moment, I realized that all my fears was false, you know, and I remember that moment for the rest of my life, because now when I go through things, I always ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? And I play out the worst scenario. And if I believe that I have the courage to go through the worst, then it allows me to get past that fear. And then at the same time, what gives me the confidence is the self-knowledge of knowing what's true about myself. I think about myself not in terms of looks at all, but I think my most attractive thing is your mind. You know, how intelligent you are, how you can speak, like what are those qualities about yourself? But the only way that I can really believe that is I spend time studying. I spend time educating myself. I'm spending time learning. So I know that for me, that's like the training. That's adding value to me every single day. So when I walk out into the world, I have confidence because I know the truth. The same way you would see somebody who's considered cocky like Mayweather, but I believe the reason he's confident is because he trains harder than anybody else. If he didn't do the training, I don't think he'll walk outside that confident. You know, but that's where you get more so with the confidence without the training is cockiness, because it's not real. But when you think about it like that and you're able to hold on to the truth of who you are, you be like, no, I'm smart, so I can walk in confidence to be able to defeat this test. I know I'm going to get a good grade, so you're not even tripping. You're nonchalant. Then there's no stress. You know, stress is when you're worried about the future. You know what I mean? Depression is when you're stuck in the past, things you can't change. You know what I mean? Things you have no power over. But for me, I steep myself in the present moment at all times. You know, and lastly but not least, these phones right here can be either your worst enemy or your best friend. Either it's going to use you or you going to use it. It can cause your depression, or you can use it as a tool to enlighten yourself. You know, you can measure your success and your, or it can feed your insecurities when you're looking at what the next person has that you don't have. When none of it even matters. If I lost every follower today, I'm the same exact person. If I get 1 billion tomorrow, the information that I have is just as relevant. So your confidence never become attached to the illusion that you show the world. So for me, tying in the entirety of that question, I educate myself on the opportunities every day that may exist, because it allows me more opportunity in today's time. Like, there's always something being created that I need to update myself on. And if you all have a phone, then you all have a business. If you all have a phone, you have a classroom. You all have a phone, you got a briefcase. You all have a phone, you have a tool that you can use to change your life. Either it's going to feed your insecurities or it's going to feed your confidence. Either it's going to make you dumber, for lack of better words, or it's going to make you more intelligent. So you have to ask yourself every day, what am I doing to make myself smarter? What am I doing to make myself more confident? What am I doing to make myself more attractive? Because now I get to the point where I used to want to chase a dream. I don't ever want to do that again. I only want to attract dreams to me. It was a point where I wanted to chase money. Now I want the money to come to me. And now I want to be able to turn down it if I want to. But the only reason it'll come to me if I add more value onto myself. So people want to seek me out. People want to call me. So I don't believe you should chase a thing, because that means that it's running away from you. So the more value you add to yourself, the less you find yourself chasing other things. So I think that ties into the whole anxiety of being young and trying to figure out your confidence and things of that nature. You just focus on yourself to add value to self, and then watch everything come to you. And then hold on to your truth of who you are, because the more you hold on to your truth, you get to that thing that people spend their entire lives looking for, and that's purpose.
I need to interject one thing here, if I may. Honored panel, distinguished interviewers, at this moment I do have to exit because of deadlines that I do have to make. But it was certainly an honorable thing to be sitting here with you all, and for you all out there to be here listening. It really lifts my heart and soul to see that you are here. Just by you being here means everything in the world to me. I love you all every day. That's why I tell you, I talk to you like I'm your father. Not so much with the academics, because you're like my daughter and you're like my son. And I have faith in you all that it's your turn. You're the ones that's going to make the change and bring it back. It's not on me anymore. I'm past my time. All I can do is just throw it at you and say investigate and reinvest in your culture. I love this man from the very beginning. I'm so proud of him. My heart is so full. The same thing like I said about Imaje. Because see, I'm an old man now, but it's always an honor and a pleasure to see young people ready to take the next step and keep us alive. Keep us alive, keep our race, keep our culture alive, keep us out of slavery. It's on you. It's your turn. Do your thing. Brother, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise, bro. I appreciate it.
It's an honor. It's an honor meeting you. So go.
Thank you to all three of you guys. And this is Bridging the Gap, and y'all have an amazing evening.
I had a really dope experience speaking in front of my old school, speaking with my old teacher from middle school that had a huge impact on my life. And it was just dope being there with all these young people that had these questions for me and wanted to hear from us.
I'm not 100% sure that they're going to retain all the information that was given, but each student will have something that grasps their intention in there. So there's a lot of scholars that I know for sure from having teaching experience with them. They disengage very quick, but I just seen all eyes on the speaker, so it was a good turnout for that.
It was inspiring to see the young generation put themselves in positions to where they're answering questions, and also to have the front line of children be so attentive and be so ready to receive knowledge and information for their own purpose and growth.
It was really inspiring and motivational. I listened more than I do. I know you're gonna lie. I listened more than I do kind of in class because it was more deep, and yeah, so I liked it. It gave me motivation to keep going.
I think that this type of stuff is always needed. I think talking about education and application is just really important, and I think that it makes young people feel more valuable, because I don't think that they always feel that valuable.
I absolutely know that it has bridged that gap because Mr. Brown gave a very powerful speech in there, and then not only did he give a speech, but he connected the kids to his speech as well too, to let them know that, yo, I'm connected with you as well. So I know that for any scholar that goes into his class, they're going to have a better understanding of who he is as a person. So therefore, it could help drive his instruction in the classroom as well too.
It inspired you to like go for your dream, and like it was telling you like more about the world.
I'm not sure what their level of comprehension is, but at the same time, I don't ever want to speak to them as if they're not able to understand. And so, but what I felt in that room, I felt like they had an ability to understand everything that I was talking about.
I think it was very deep and inspiring because it was basically telling you like how you have to basically like work through your stuff to get what you want.
I enjoy the fact that they actually seen the speakers live in person. There's a lot of negative things on social media, and then just to see somebody who is doing their thing on social media to actually come in and give a positive message, I really feel like the kids can really connect to that.
I would suggest students going to that because like some kids really need to hear it because like it was really inspirational and it could make them change their ways and things.
I think they took motivation from it, more so than the education of it. I think they were more so inspired to see a person who can articulate themselves and speak on maybe topics that they don't understand. And I think sometimes that's important as well, because you can get an influence in there, can tell you about social media, can make it sound all good, but it's not the most inspiring thing because it doesn't give you something to really mentally aspire to be. You know, like becoming a celebrity is not really a mental aspiration, but becoming a genius is something that, damn, if I really want to sit here and understand what this man is talking about, then that means that I have to sit down, really learn, and get on to the next level. So if I think that this person is cool, I think that this person is popular, I think this person achieved some level of success, the only way that I can be like this person is to understand what they're talking about.
Don't use your past as an excuse for stuff that you can always try.
I wholeheartedly know that it's going to be successful at the schools. I think this is something that's needed at a lot of schools because a lot of times we have guest speakers come in and it's like the kids don't really get that connection with them, don't really get to ask the questions that they really want to ask. And I think this puts them in an environment where the speakers are put on the spot to answer these questions that they have to ask.